Erin here from BC Global Investments. I want to walk you through from start to finish on analyzing a flip. So I'm going to walk you through the Google document that I'm currently using. Google is a great way to store your documents. Also, if you have a partner on it, it's an easy way to share it. And then make sure you don't lose track of any updates. You know, it keeps track of all that. It keeps track of who updates things and when, and then it's just easy for everyone to work off the same document in Google. So the first thing you are going to look at when you're talking about a flip is just the basic demographic data. So I just have the address here at the top. This is a flip that I'm actually doing right now. I just got under contract yesterday. So it has 752 square feet of livable space upstairs, but it also has a full basement with that same amount of square feet. So the plan is to make a duplex, and there's already a door upstairs for the front unit and a door downstairs for the lower unit. So it'll be fairly easy to do. We basically will just close off the stairway and we'll have two totally separate units, and it will increase our value probably about $35,000 by doing that. And it's only going to cost us probably another $6,000 because we have to do an additional kitchen. So pretty good trade-off right there. So we'll go through that in a minute though. So 752 square feet, 2 units each, 2 beds, 1 bath. This was originally built in 1888. So we got the property for $40,500. We are anticipating $65,000 in renovation costs. And once we consider everything that goes into it, the purchase plus the renovation minus our down payment, which is right here, $10,550, we are left with a loan amount of $94,950. This particular loan is, like I said, 10% down. It's going to be 3 points and then also going to be 10% annualized. So that comes out to 0.83% per month. So that's where that number comes from. And this next number, $791.22, that's going to be the monthly interest payment. $450 is just an estimate for the builder's risk policy. That's what you're going to get when you're doing a construction loan. It's for an unoccupied property that's under construction. Typically, they're 6-month terms, and that's about what I pay for a single-family home. This is an estimate on the taxes. We're anticipating getting rid of this within 6 months, so this is a high estimate, pretty conservative, and we anticipate spending $600 in taxes. Like I said, we're going to hold on to the property for hopefully less than 6 months. We're not going to have an interest payment the first month because that will be prorated in our closing costs. So we're anticipating basically 5 months of interest expenses. So that's what this number is here, $3,956. Points on the front end, these are just lender fees. So when you're using hard money, they typically charge you 3 points, sometimes 2 points, sometimes 4 points. It depends on the deal. Sometimes you can pay more points to get a lower interest rate or vice versa. So this one is 3 points, so make sure you consider that when you're looking at your costs. So cost of those points will be $2,373. And again, it's 3% of this loan amount right here, $94,950. We're anticipating $1,500 in closing costs, so that's to do all the legal fees and the title searches and actually do the transaction. So all of those together, the cost of the points and the closing costs, the taxes and the builder's risk policy will come out to $4,923. And once you add that to your down payment, which is up here, $10,550, you are looking at $15,473 total to bring to closing. So cash to close. Then if you go over here in column F and G, you see the total cash outlay. So we already know, like I just talked about, the closing costs are $15,473.75. We know we're going to be paying interest every month except for that first month. Again, they're going to prorate that and make us pay that at closing. So that will be $3,956. And then I always like to have a reserve fund, especially when you're working with a partner. In this case, I am. So we're going to put $10,000 into a reserve fund. So total cash outlay is $29,429. Hopefully, you don't tap into these reserves because we are asking the lender. The lender is going to be paying for our renovation, but that's just, for a rainy day. So you'll see when we go into the proceeds, you're not actually going to see that number in there. You'll only have to add it in there if you do dip into it or you do need those money or more money out of pocket, essentially. So now you look at the proceeds when you sell it. So this is a flip, so we're planning to sell it. We think we can sell anywhere from, very conservatively, $150,000 to $175,000 if the market keeps up and things go well. The finishes are done well, the construction is done well. That's the plan. So hopefully, you know, we'll get to that 175. We anticipate paying our agents, each agent on the sale side and on the buyer side, 3%. So that's what this row 29 is here. 3% of 150 in column C, and then 3% of 175,000 in column D. So they each get their 3%. I always anticipate that a buyer is going to ask us to pay closing costs. I mean, we might only get one offer. We don't really get to have a say in what type of offer we get. So worst case scenario, we're going to pay closing costs. So I always include that on the front side when I'm analyzing. I anticipate that because it's a flip, the buyer might want us to do a home warranty. So I include another $495 charge there. So that leaves us with a gross of $136,000 on the conservative side, or $159,000 if we get it for a lot higher. Sell it for a lot higher, I should say. So once we have that gross amount, we're going to subtract out what we've already put into it. So you're going to subtract your interest payment. You're going to subtract all the cash to close, and then obviously the loan, because you got to pay the lender back. So you're left with, worst case scenario, $21,625. Best case scenario, $44,870. So when you look at what you put into it, that $15,473 plus the $3,956, you're looking at 139% to a 289% return on investment. So that's fairly reasonable for a flip. You know, it is high risk. You could also not make any money, and you could also lose money. So I typically look for at least a 50% return on investment when it comes to a flip. This one is pretty solid in a really hot market and does not require high-end finishes, so we should make a good amount. So the next thing we'll talk about is the budget on the next tab. Okay, so tab 2 down here is the budget. We are going to go kind of through this line by line. I have notes here on the side to help you estimate. These numbers are really based on the areas that I flip, which is mostly in the South, and in, I wouldn't say low-end markets, but certainly not high-end. And these are not for high-end finishes either. You know, they're good. They're probably B-class properties. They make good rentals, but they're not high-end. We're not talking about granite countertops or hardwood floors. We're talking about luxury vinyl planking and some type of a laminate or non-porous surface. So no crazy high-end finishes. Obviously, if you're looking at higher-end finishes, a lot of these will go up. I also don't typically include permit costs at the top. I usually kind of do them by item, because your contractor that you're going to hire is going to pay for that anyway. They'll give you a bid and it will include that. And they're the ones who will pull the permit, go through the inspection process, and make sure that it's all done well for the most part. So the thing that goes into pretty much every single construction project, you're going to need a dumpster. You're always going to, almost always going to have to plan for demo. So I usually include, if you can fit it in a dumpster, and you don't need it for a terribly long time, a $500 estimate is pretty good. If you're going to need multiple dumps, I would plan for like an additional $300 per dump. For this property, we don't have any issues with the foundation. It's really hard to give just a general idea of how much a foundation repair is going to cost, because it totally depends on the foundation. So you're always going to need an estimate there. Roofs, most roofs will be somewhere between the $4,000 and $6,000 range. This one we're going to estimate $6,000 only because I'm not sure if there's any issues with the subroof or any issues behind the shingles. I haven't seen any leaks or any water damage, but we always just kind of want to be conservative. We don't need to do any siding. It is a wood and brick home, so we're only going to paint it, so you'll see that in a minute. Windows, there's only a couple windows that need to be repaired on each floor. I anticipate $250 per unit, so 6 total units, or I'm sorry, 6 total windows. We'll have 4 interior doors per unit, so $400 at $100 a door. We'll need 2 new exterior doors, one on each unit, $300 per door. Planning for high-end on exterior paint, I typically plan for $1,500 to $3,000, but we're going to have to remove the existing paint. So that's going to be an additional cost to have somebody pressure wash and then scrape that. So I have $4,000 built in. No gutters are needed. The gutters are in pretty good shape on this one. We're going to be redoing entire bathrooms. We're doing pretty low end. They're going to be really small bathrooms, so I have $2,000 in there, but I typically would include $2,500 to $3,500. However, I think because they're going to be right on top of each other, like one will be directly below the other, so I anticipate saving a little bit of money on the plumbing. That said, plumbing, I'm estimating $2,000 additionally. That's for the bathroom, but also the kitchen, the water heater, and the washer and dryer. HVAC, we are going to need a new unit. The property also already has ductwork, so we're only anticipating units. So one upstairs, one downstairs. $4,500 is pretty high for the unit, but I'm anticipating that we're also going to have to like repair some of that ductwork and also maybe just get it serviced. So that's where that's coming in. Anticipating $3,000 for interior paint on each floor. It's probably way high, but I want to keep it where it is for now. $1,500 for the flooring. I'm essentially planning for $2 a square foot for vinyl planking. $6,000 for each kitchen. $4,000 for all the electrical per unit. $1,000 for kitchen appliances. Probably not going to do dishwasher. We're probably just going to do a lower end fridge, a microwave, and a stove. And landscaping, we're anticipating about $400, and then final cleaning, $1,500. We may add a fence, but typically what I do when I do a flip is just offer the buyer a contingent or a concession for a fence, so they can go ahead and do their own fence however they want to do it. And sometimes it can be a little bit more appealing to an investor. So total budget upstairs for the top unit, $37,000. Bottom unit, $25,600. So that total is $62,000. I'm sure you saw before that I put $65,000 for the rental budget, so I did build in a little bit of a buffer. I also was super conservative in general. I don't think we'll hit this budget, which is why you see column E here as a garage. There's a 2-car garage with an additional living space. The goal is to kind of turn that into like a man cave and do sort of like a mini kitchen or like a wet bar maybe, and then just a small half bath and a little bit of living space. So whatever's left over on the budget, we'll do that. It's kind of hard to get value from this, from something like this, because it's not, technically living space. So we're not going to put a ton into it. It'll just make the listing more appealing. So it will be, I don't think they would really be able to rent it out as living space. It's not going to have a shower or anything, but we're just trying to add a little bit of value and again, make that listing more appealing. So that's it. That's the budget. So the last thing is the timeline, and I'm going to go through that with you on a whole different file. Okay, so flip sequence of events. I've got it into 3 separate sections: before closing, during construction or renovation, and then after closing. So we'll go line by line here. So before closing, this is before, you come across a deal. Somebody brings you a deal, or you get it in your inbox, or you find it on Facebook or whatever. You're going to run the numbers on that deal. And once you realize that it's something you want to pursue, you're going to figure out your financing. Are you going to get a loan on it? Are you going to use your own money? Are you going to borrow money? Are you going to partner with somebody? Whatever you decide to do, just make sure you have your money in order, because you're going to make an offer after that. Once they accept your offer, you're going to sign a contract and immediately send earnest money. Most of the time when you are buying a flip, you're going to buy it from a wholesaler, and it's going to be a non-refundable earnest money deposit. So you want to be fairly certain that things are going to work out. You're still going to have an opportunity to do some due diligence after this, so you can still walk away from closing. However, you're not going to get that money back. Really, the only situation in which you would get that money back is if they cannot offer clear title. So the seller can't sell and give you a warranty. The title company can't give you a warranty on the title. So that's pretty much the only time you're going to get your earnest money deposit back, if the seller can't sell the property or can't give you clear title. So keep that in mind. If you do walk away, you're going to lose your earnest money deposit, which is not the end of the world. I have personally walked away from a deal I lost $2,500 in earnest money, but I would have lost a lot more money because there were major issues with the property that I did not know about. So it's up to you, but just keep that in mind. So that's why you have to have your financing figured out before you even make an offer. So number 6, once you are under contract, they're going to obviously connect you with the title company. That's where you're sending your earnest money deposit. At that point, you can go ahead and reach out to somebody to set up a builder's risk insurance policy. This is what you're going to get for a vacant property that will have construction ongoing. So there's no tenant or anything like that. So it's not very expensive. Usually for a single family home for a 6-month policy, it's like $450, $500. So then you're going to draft up all the contracts and agreements. Hopefully do this before closing. If you have partners or you're working with a lender, a private lender, draft all this up now. Might as well get it out of the way so you can sign it before closing or on the day of closing. If you're working with a hard money lender or a conventional lender, the title company is going to draft up a lot of this. But if you're just like borrowing money from your mom or, a family member or friend, you're probably going to end up doing it on your own. Again, the title company can't help you though. Pretty much every job site is going to require a dumpster and probably a porta potty. So schedule for that to be dropped off on closing day or whatever day you decide to have construction start, because you're going to pay for those by the day. And then try to get as many bids as you can before you close. Try to schedule as much work as you possibly can. Sometimes contractors won't go with you if you don't have ownership of the property, if you haven't closed yet, but sometimes they won't even ask. And then other times you might just be working with somebody who's a friend or family member, and they can start giving you bids, getting you an estimate, and you can draft your construction timeline. So then once you are actually under construction, you're in the renovation phase, you are going to make sure anyone that you hire is licensed and insured. And that's just a simple basic question. Hey, are you licensed and insured? And they say, yep. Say, okay, send it over to me. And they should send you their business license and a copy of their insurance. Make sure that they're bonded, because you could get in big trouble. Also make sure, just do a quick Google search on what they're licensed to do. Because if you have a huge renovation, like an $80,000 project or something, and they're only licensed to do $25,000 work, you're not going to be in a good place when things don't go well. So just keep that in mind. Just do a quick Google. You don't need to know what the different licenses are, but just Google what they have, what they can do, and make sure that it fits the needs of your property. So then make sure that all your contractors sign the contracts. Always make sure that everybody knows what it is you're hiring them to do, what the timeline is, when and how you're going to pay them, what are the repercussions for not doing the work, and what kind of contingencies are you going to build in. Make sure that's all in there. Make sure they sign it. Then make sure that you enforce those contracts. You need to actively manage the property or hire someone to manage it. Somebody needs to be there on the ground, making sure that the contractors are doing what they said they're going to do. So inspect it, when they're done before you send them money. A lot of times, you'll pay a little bit. Maybe you'll pay some up front to pay for materials. Then you'll pay a little bit more when it's 50% done, and then you'll pay the remaining balance at completion of whatever you hired them to do. Make sure that you're inspecting that. Don't just take their word for the fact that they're done or that they're halfway done. You need to get an inspector out there, even if you have to hire somebody to do that. Make sure that you keep the lines of communication open with everybody all the time. That's just good business. Take care of your contractors. You'd be surprised at what a box of donuts can do, and just put a smile on people's face, put a little pep in their step, and it just shows that you care. You're thinking about them. Make sure that you're keeping track of all expenses. Number 8, so just keep an expense tracker. Number 9, don't forget to pay your interest payments, taxes if you need to, and then whatever insurance. You might have prepaid it, maybe you didn't, but just make sure that you have a tracker for all those things and set reminders on your calendar. And then after you close, construction's done, you've sold the property. First of all, pat yourself on the back and schedule a celebration. This is huge, good for you. Then you're going to make sure that you file all the closing documents from the initial purchase and then also the final sale or the refinance if you did that. You need to keep all those documents on file. You're going to need them for your taxes. Make sure that you file your expense tracker so you can report income. Because even if it showed, let's just say the difference in price on your HUD was $100,000, but you didn't make $100,000, right? Maybe you paid $40,000 in construction costs or $60,000. So you only made $60,000 or $40,000. So make sure you keep track of that. Next, share your success. And I don't say that, like, I don't mean go out and brag, but tell your friends and family and your coworkers about what you're doing, because they might want to do it too. They might want to partner with you in the future, and you just found a great source of income or somebody who can help you out. And that leads to the last thing. Find your next flip and do it all over again, because the real money is in the volume and the repetition and the scaling. So that's it. Flip sequence events, how I analyze a flip. Hope this was helpful, and I hope that you get out there, you find a flip, and you crush it.